Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. I know there's some few people still coming today. And we'll just wait for Corey. Thanks. So I just want to make a warm welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for coming to Delta today for Jumpstart for Mentors. We're here to serve you guys. So if anyone has any questions or needs something, please let us know. You met Eric out in the front lobby. He is an employee here. Josh is. And Nancy will be running around. Nancy Wood, she is awesome. She's putting everything together for us, the food and the catering later. So just ask us if you need anything. A few notes here, the room right here, and then to the right here, past the elevators and to the right, the stairway there. There's restrooms there if anyone needs them. And then anytime during any of the sessions, if you have questions, want to engage us, please don't hesitate, ask questions. We are here to answer questions and just kick around things. We kind of coined this as reset, reconnect, and reinvest. And with the pandemic slowly going away, but still there, we just want a chance that everybody can take a pause moment here and just reflect and see what we can do to improve and kickstart the FRC season right for the January kickoff planned. So with that, I'm going to go into the mixer. You guys all had a piece of paper I gave you, but you guys were all talking, but I want to know if anyone's really went out and asked someone their name, what team they're from, what role they play on the team, and what their passion about first is, and then a hobby. So anyone want to volunteer to introduce someone they met today? Come on, dude. I'm doing stuff that I usually don't like to do if I'm a participant, but it's fun to do it when I'm up here. Hey, Karen, we'll go first.
And this is her first year as a coach for the Coon Rapids team, right? So I didn't ask, what's your passion for first? And what's your hobbies? So
she's brand new, so everything's passion for her.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed, yes.
Scared of your teacher.
This is a couple years ago. So the t-shirt right here is free time. Nope, it's build season. This was two years ago. They limited this process, but prior to 2019, we had 6 weeks to design and build a robot. And on February 20th, every team had to take their robot, put it in a giant plastic bag, zip tie it shut with a sealed number, and you could not work on it until you go into competition. So that's where it's build season. It was crunch time. You had 6 weeks. And it was the first year I was involved in first, my wife was about to divorce me. Right? She's like, this is, you're there.
Hold on.
New.
No,
She's
hold on.
new.
Yeah. You gotta know, she's new and Corey's a different person.
Yeah.
But that has changed. Now that you now have all the way up to, I mean, you don't have to bag your robot anymore. It's a little bit more relaxed. I mean, and like he said, I am a special person. You heard me talking here. I bring everything to 120%. And if we work through it, me and my wife, so.
You're still together.
By getting her involved in first?
Well, the next time we do, I could take the room all day long. Let's do that on the next break. I can tell you that story.
Vacation.
Yeah, right.
Anybody else? Sandy?
I was gonna say, I met Joshua.
Josh is
I was gonna say, that's what I heard your name as, who is also brand new, and I'm really bad with all the details. So, but he is he's a teacher that was brought in for the school. And you're gonna have to do the rest. Sorry, Josh, I'm throwing you out there.
Yeah, so last year was our first year. We worked with Todd. Todd helped us out, so a lot.
Which
Let's just laugh openly about that because we all know Todd, and Joshua over here and I were just laughing about how if you know Todd, you've got to love Todd because you can't say maybe. He's like, okay, I'll put you on the agenda, or let's go.
So yeah, so that's how
It comes from the top because Lori's back there as the volunteer coordinator. I got roped into this from my team, original team that my son was on and Josh was on, the team 3840, and that was a big part of their team. They wanted to volunteer, and I was hesitant. Once I got in, I'm still in. I'm way over my head, but I'm still in.
At school.
Legacy Christian Academy. It's in Andover.
Okay.
So not too far from here.
And for the record, that was the last email that went out the door yesterday. So you and Josh were the last ones on the list.
Right. Anybody else want to quickly share? I can call people out because I know most of you in here. It's just fun to mix up, and big part of the passion here is with this is breaking the stigma between a coach and a mentor. And we're going to talk about it in my session a little more, but sometimes a coach is just from the administrator side and with the school and stuff, and we love them guys. And in the mentor side, it comes from industry. They're more passionate about things and they go-getters and want to do stuff. So we appreciate both. Anybody else want to share quick? Nobody. So with that, then we're going to continue talking about, but we want this as engaging as possible. We put topics on here that we hope that would help everyone reset and reconnect with fellow mentors in the area and around the state. And disclaimer, we are recording this session. There is a team up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, in Andrew, and I don't know if he's got anyone else online there. They're streaming it right now and watching live, and we'll record this and put it on our website later. So with that, we're gonna introduce Andrew. You want to say hi?
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for accommodating me.
Thanks. Welcome. Yeah, very cool.
So Andrew, do you want to give just a quick thing that your team, is this your second year now? You just started team last year?
I believe the team officially started in 2019, but we haven't done a whole lot of growing. So we're a veteran team. We've got a robot. I believe we did a competition in 2019, but I joined in 2020. So just starting to get my feet wet. It's just a bunch of mentors right now. So just trying to get as much information as I can from stuff like this. And I'll share all this with the other mentors as well, but I believe it's just me today. So
Okay. Well, it'll be explained.
So by the way, there is a microphone in the ceiling. So
Yeah.
he is able to hear room volume. So keep that in mind. It's good when you want to ask questions. It's bad when you're running.
in Grand Forks are you at? Can you hear me?
what's that?
What school in Grand Forks?
So our team is not actually out of a school.
Oh, okay.
We have our sponsorship out of the North Dakota Science Center, who sponsored us and allowed us, funding and stuff like that. We also get our funding from the North Dakota Space Consortium. So that's one of my goals for our team is to get into a school and
Yeah, I was just
find
curious.
some more
I
students.
graduated from Red River. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. They have a thriving Vex teams there too. That in Central. So
Well, thanks for being a part of it. And if you have any questions anytime, just shout in or in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat as well. If you got a question or want to engage, feel free to do that. A couple new people just arrived. Thanks for coming to Delta. We can't thank Delta enough for being able to host this. I greatly appreciate it as an employee of Delta. And then the two fine gentlemen on my left over there, Josh and Eric as well, is coming through their first alumni and working at Delta as well. So with that, I'm going to introduce Wendy Stromberg, second generation owner here at Delta ModTech, and she's got some great things that she's going to be covering here. She can do it.
He's willing.
I know she can do it.
He's willing it into me. Thank you guys for being willing to make the drive. I heard Annandale, Eden Prairie. There was another long one. Watertown Mayor, St. Cloud. So you guys have put in your time today, and I'll be honest. I come from a mechanical engineering background, but we did not have a privilege of having robotics teams when I went through school. And man, I wish we would have. I knew I loved solving problems. I knew I loved math and science, but I could have had the experience that some of your students have getting their hands on this. And to be honest, understanding that it was possible to go through engineering and not be in the design realm, to go through engineering and be in the communications realm, or be in sales, or be in any of the other places that an engineering degree can take you. I would have loved that experience. So I can't thank you enough. I've got kids up and coming from 15, 13, 11, and 9, and I'm super excited to get them involved in some robotics. And see what pictures are painted. So I just have to show you this fun little thing. Speaking of, I can get it to advance here. Oh, there it is. Recognize that?
I do.
Gosh, just speaking of kids, just yesterday, my third grader came home with an email from his teacher, and in the email was, check this out, 8516 throwing basketballs into the net. I even have a short little clip on that. Here you go here. Maybe it's really thinking one time. Thought I may need a little bit of help here. Show you why. Get it to play. It's not what you do, but it's a 3-second clip just showing that these kids were so excited. They were very excited. And so that's what we are hoping you guys, we fire you up, you get excited for your season, and you're able to start communicating with kids. I believe this was a school type assembly, wasn't it, Josh?
I sent my team to do it, so I don't know much about it actually. I was teaching.
Delegation, I like it.
Delegate to the team leaders. There we go.
Clearly your team did a good job. So
That's how you don't burn out. To be
yeah,
able
they
to
were pretty wrapped up.
share the load.
And I hope the rest of our videos work better than this one did. So that's what we're here for. We're here to help you reset, reconnect, reinvest. Just a little bit, so you kind of know where I'm going. I love the big picture, long game. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Delta. I'm not here to sell Delta by any means, but I am here to say that we have gone through some really parallel things in terms of our story, our family, and our culture. And so I kind of want to share that story with you and share with you how we problem solved it. So we'll share a story. We're going to kind of break out. We're going to talk a little bit about culture, this elusive word. What is it and why does it matter? We're going to look at a case study, and then we're going to go into another break activity. So we hope to keep you on the move this morning. We are a family-owned and operated business, which we've done a lot of work in our family business. It's a lot of work. And you know what the biggest piece of the work is? Not this building or the employees. It's our own family culture. We are putting so many hours into building a culture of trust with each other, how we look at the business, roles we play. And so even down at the ownership level, we're working on building culture. We broke ground in this building. That was the picture you're seeing. We broke ground in 2019, October 2019, right before the pandemic hit. And you know what, I'm a firm believer in blessings from above. And this building went forth without a hitch. We were able to move in. We moved in the middle of the pandemic, July 2020. And just like you're benefiting today, we have had so many people benefit from this facility and the time put into the technology. We just can't say enough how even in the middle of a pandemic, good things can happen and good things come out. And this was one of it. We were in 3 different facilities, or 3 different buildings. So imagine trying to build capital equipment in 3 different spaces. I think Todd and Eric and Josh, you were never there, were you? The whole building? We put on so many miles, probably a better fitness program than we've got now, but just a real quick and dirty. We are based here in US. What we think we're famous for is being the first manufacturing equipment to utilize servo motors. And we'll talk a little bit about that, why that matters. We've been in the business for 42 years. We have about 16,000 machines installed. And we have roughly 200 employees. And this is a really important point. We're going to talk about this today because what happened to us in the pandemic is that we went from roughly 125 employees in January 2020 to 200 today. So that's an increase nearly 40%. So we also have a sister business that we acquired, Frontier Coating. And again, what that adds to our business is we deal in the web converting and packaging, which we'll talk about. They are kind of a front end operation, which has really been a help to our business. These are some, now I really hate to show this picture because in all honesty, everything on this picture is something you could buy at a Walmart. But the reality is with a lot of the products, 80% of the products that we run on our machines can't be purchased at Walmart. So, but because of confidentiality, we can't show those. So we're showing you that to the best of our knowledge, web, anything flexible, anything with multiple layers, adhesives, foams, you've got several layers of binders there. You've got glucose test strips. Those are parts that require a lot of precision, tolerance, vision work. So this is my dad back in '78. And, you guys are all about solving problems. Your teams are solving problems. Well, that's what happened with my dad. He had been in electrical contracting. He has a 6-month degree at DeVry Electronics, no further training. But he was sick of being schooled in the union electrical field. And the contracts became tighter and tighter to get. If you were minority owned or female owned, contracts were easier to obtain. But all of that led him to, what am I going to do? I've got a young family. What do I do with myself? And so he started taking his electrical contracting into the CNC and mill lathe area. And he looked at the technology in that equipment and said, this business with XY motion, why couldn't that be applied to special machines? People were coming to him saying, hey, could you build me this? Could you build me this? And so really from the very beginning, he asked a lot of questions. He tried to figure out what was most helpful to his customers. He was in Telltale, he was in Minneapolis, down to Minneapolis at a large printing press. And they had an issue with the print cylinder. He just felt locked. He's got this massive print cylinder and he had no ability to adjust it because it was geared to a large DC motor. That's it. I'm not going to do that anymore. So out of this problem, he said, I'm going to take this technology, the speed of servos, the XY motion, and the accuracy of it, I'm going to apply it to special machines. And that was from the very beginning. And that led to 1980s. That led us to modular technology. So some of you, I know talking about Todd, some of you do this on your robots. You have modules that you build up and it's kind of a self-contained and tested. That is what we do. We look at all of these modules as separate entities. We build solid mechanics. We build solid software platforms behind them. We test these entities. And then when we go about building a custom machine, we've got proven technology to pull from. You understand the concept? So it makes it so that you can, this is a quick run through, I'll get to it. Basically, this type of part would start with input rolls coming through die stations, pulling off release liners to a final part. But here, let me show you how this modular technology works in a video. It's that big concept of plug and play. And the machines can be anywhere that length to this to full-blown systems. Integrated there's a robot on the end. I don't know if my cursor is showing up. And vision systems all throughout the line. We've also done, this isn't a core part of our business, but just I wanted to pull this into where you guys are at, what you work on. We've integrated full lasers into production systems. And this is an example of, this was actually taking, this project killed me, you guys. I was still on full staff before having kids, and this was photo paper. I won't say the company, and they wanted, I don't remember the tolerances. I just remember that it was super fast. And because it was photo paper, it didn't want to stack. So you're cutting this paper, and they want to get it into these stacks, but there's so much friction on the surface of the photo paper. How are we going to do it? So it eventually took this robot picking them up from a single lane and placing them into the stacks. And that's technology. Oh, Todd, what was that job? That was HP, probably 2003, 2004. So just give you a perspective. Here's another example of a line. And here is a video, if it will play. So we're taking stacks, 4 individual parts, and we're putting them in a nested 2x2. This could replicate something like, this was our part we designed, but it replicated a transdermal drug patch. We do quite a bit with drug patches that are applied to the skin, and it's in a pouch. So again, I think it's fun to sometimes take what you guys are doing that's a little bit of play and a lot of bit of education and directly applying it to industry and knowing that it's out there being used today. So my encounter with Todd, I told you a little bit about it when I met Todd 2018-19. I just, I've worked with Todd a lot of years. How long have you been here, Todd?
21.
21 years. I've worked with Todd a lot of years. I know he's just a ball of energy, but I had no idea what he was really about, and I had no idea what the robotics were about. So I attended this event with my 2 sons on the bottom, and these 3 young guys, I wanted to pack them up and take them home with me. They were the most courteous, helpful, servant-hearted guys I had ever met at the high school level. And I thought, what's going on here? And then I start watching around these teams, and my perspective was just blown away. Like, this was not the typical group of programmers, introverted programmers. This was you're living it, but I just want you to know from the outside what I saw. I saw these micro business units that were being put together, that your teams were recruiting marketers, you were recruiting finance people, you were recruiting the videographers, you're recruiting the programmers too, and the builders. You can play a lot of sports, and I did, but I don't think there's anything too true to life as what these robotics teams are that I saw. And I was so excited to be a part of that day, which is hence why Todd roped me into a few more things. Let's see here. I'm not going to play this yet. Sorry, I do apologize for my hoarse throat. I want to transition from knowing a little bit about Delta's product and our history and our ownership and the connection to robotics. And we're going to transition into a culture discussion. One of the things that I noticed in the last year, oh, thank you so much, Sean. I work on a leadership team here at Delta with 8 other technically minded engineers, and not throw any men under the bus, but they're guys. And as we grew, I think our team's really, really great at solving technical problems. Obviously, the things that hit on the floor and the risk that we take on, they're great at that. But as we evolved, particularly adding on these 80 people in the past year and a half, we saw a real cultural divide. We saw those who have been here the 21 years saying, oh, that new person, to
the young guys saying, man, I don't know how to get involved here. This is like a closed door society. If you haven't worked here 20 years, you can't fit in. I don't know, Eric and Josh, you're new here. I could probably ask you your opinions on it.
Culture has certainly changed quite a lot in the past 3 years. There were 115 employees when I started, so I would walk in, 'cause I'm an intern, and I'd walk in for the first time every summer and see an incredible amount of new faces. So it's certainly changed.
So where we're good at solving and innovating technical solutions, we aren't always good at innovating people solutions. You guys are in a people crisis, from what I understand. You're in a restart crisis. You're in a find volunteers crisis. You're in a get kids excited to be in person, to be in class crisis. It's not a whole lot different. Solving people problems is so much harder. And yet that's what you're being called upon to do. We spent a lot of time as a leadership team talking through things. How can we share the culture that we have with new employees and old employees? We had a situation last spring. There's very high retention here, very high retention. But last November, let me back up, from October through January, so we're talking October 2020 to January 21, we had 6 employees start, and from the get-go, you could just tell they were not a fit. And by January, all 6 quit. That was the highest turnover. I mean, it doesn't sound like a big number to you, but for us, that's huge. We have never had that kind of turnover. And that was just a really huge wake-up call. What are we doing? So we decided to make a couple of key changes. One, the first way that we interview people is it's peer-led. We are a very flat managed organization. We're big on raising leaders up from the bottom, which I think you guys can relate to too. That's your role. You're raising the kids to be the leader. Josh is raising his team to be the leader so that he can be in class and his team can take it over and market. That's what you're doing. So that's what we've always tried to do too. We want to raise leaders up from the bottom. But we recognized a gap that if this prospective employee was interviewed by the team and the team said, yeah, I think he can do the job, they were talking about the technical aspects of the job. Sure, he could do the technical aspects of the job. And some of the people that they interviewed with might have touched on the culture, but they didn't really hit it home. So we decided as a leadership team that every person who applied, we were going to go through the peer interview. If that level worked and they wanted to promote this candidate, then we as leadership team would take on a second level interview, strictly about culture. Because in the end, the culture and character of your students is your greatest asset. It's greater than their technical ability. Because if they have a drive to hard work, if they have a drive to diligence, they will pursue the technical. It'll come, it'll happen, and they'll do it together. So at any rate, the other thing that we implemented is we put together a video, and it started out happen chance. And actually, Josh, Ken Jones. Ken came in to run a video on our family. My dad's 73, and we thought, you know what? We really want to move this business in the next generation. Let's get some video clips of Grandpa Dave. We want some history. Well, in going through 3 days of videoing and touring around with employees, we couldn't believe the feedback we were hearing. And so out of this, we just want a family video on my dad's story came, we need to bring this back around to the employees. And this is what we came up with.
I was born and raised in a little town of Ireton, Iowa. We were farm people, and they always said, treat others like you'd like to be treated. And that affected me a lot.
If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness.
Delta is a company that serves its employees, it serves its customers, and it has to serve the communities. You got to keep your eye on the ball. If you're going to serve, you got to serve.
What's so valuable here at Delta is really our people. That's our differentiator. Customers come in, they get to meet us, they get to see the servant attitude that we have towards each other, towards our vendors, towards our customers.
We try to treat our customers the way we want to be treated. Whether it's parts, whether it's service, whether it's training, anything, that's what we strive to do.
You know, we want to have a servant attitude. We want to make them feel like they're important and their problems are important to us.
When we meet the customer's needs, they're successful both personally as well as corporately, which turns back around and makes you a success. Delta's about people.
Well, the three pillars here are proven design, expert engineering, and passionate service. And really, they all build off of each other.
So with proven design, we know that we can throw that component onto the machine and it would work for a number of applications.
It's that engineering expertise that keeps us on top, moving forward, driving new ideas.
When you have passion, you want to go above and beyond every time. We have really well-trained engineers here. We have well-trained service staff. We're going to do whatever they need to be done to make sure it's right.
It's hard work. It's focused on finding purpose, finding value, and doing things that others don't do.
One of the things I want Delta to always be is a land of opportunities.
Some people around here started sweeping the floor and now they're turning into engineers and they're helping customers out at their sites.
I've been able to achieve being a machinist to being a project coordinator where I am today.
It's about lifting other people up, making everyone as good as they can be.
There's really good work-life balance, and then they treat you with a ton of respect. I've even taught some of the older guys a few new things, which was pretty fun for me, being the new guy coming in.
That's what's so cool. Everybody actually wants to help each other. We have the true team here. I love it.
It's nice to have a place to come to, and the security, it's like family.
We're all in this together. That's one of the aspects that the customers love about it, because they can see it.
What differentiates us as a company is I think that our employees have learned that serving each other and serving the customers is servicing people no matter what it costs you. I mean, service is everything.
You only need a heart full of grace. Soul generated by love. You can be that servant.
Now, lest you think this concept of servanthood is just a pie in the sky concept, let me paint you, and it's so much deeper than this. This is a long discussion, but let me paint this for you. When we can take that concept of serving, asking good questions, finding out what the customer truly wants and needs, we transform our innovation, because we're no longer striving to innovate, or innovate to be on top. We're innovating to meet the need of the customer. And you're dead nuts on. You can't miss. You can't lose if you've listened well and you've asked good questions. And I think you're going to find there's some application to that on your teams too. Never innovate just to innovate. Find out what the purpose is. But we're going to get back on to culture. Truly, organization's culture can make or break the experience for your members. You know, in any organization, any thriving organization, you find that culture is the secret sauce. It's the untangible, but yet it's there. So what is it? Oops. I don't know if you're going to be able to read this real careful. I'll try and point out things here. Organizational culture is just what makes you. It's grounded in a purpose. Okay.
Read that away.
Okay, I'm not going to have laser pointer. In the top left corner, it says grounded in commitment to a shared purpose, values, mindsets, behaviors. Top right, exemplified and amplified by the words and the deeds of the leaders. Bottom right corner, actuated in architecture of organizational practices and processes. In other words, best practices that you put together. Bottom, it's evident in our rituals, our stories, our lore, our aspiration, and our practices day to day. And then lastly, to the bottom left, it is visible in all our relationships, our colleagues, our customers, and our stakeholders. I found just a couple of cute quotes I thought were interesting. Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb, or CEO of Airbnb, says, culture is simply a shared way of doing something with a passion. I heard this one in a St. Thomas business, family business leadership class, and I thought it was hilarious. Culture is everything that happens in an organization outside of the formal classroom or the meeting. So if your kids are bullying on each other or playing who's better games, that still falls back to your culture. You know, the formal nature of a meeting is good, but it's what happens outside of that meeting that really shows your culture. Customers will never love a company until the employees love it first. That's Simon Sinek, author of Start With Why. So how does this process work? Some of you have probably been through a lot of cultural training. In education, I think you go through a lot more training than I do. So first of all, I'll say that none of what I'm teaching you today is from a textbook, or it may be. It's a school of hard knocks. It's a school of what we've experienced. So, you know, don't forgive me if I'm not doing something correct or saying something correct, but this has just really been our school of hard knocks in the last couple of years. And we have found that in defining culture, you first start by assessing your current state, where you're at. For a lot of us, it is in the red. It's bleak. You establish the vision that you want to, and we're going to give you some breakout exercises today to think about that, because time is of the essence. You might as well put it to use here. You remove blockers. Obviously, I know you're probably thinking, well, there's a lot of things I can't remove, right? Can't remove a pandemic. Can't remove some of the restrictions. But there are things you can remove. Fourth, establish new practices. And then communicate and reinforce. Now, this was an exercise that I did first with our sales team. And so this is kind of my case study. Now that you have the theory behind it, I want to show you how it played out in the industry. I went to our sales team, in 2001, we went through a corporate survey. And in that survey, here's the findings. This is the direct findings. The employees of Delta ModTech are aligned on servanthood, and they understand where the company's values come from, and they appreciate family ownership. Great, sounds good. We're doing what we need to do until you read the rest. However, as Delta ModTech has rapidly grown in complexity and size, employees are expressing a desire for change. They recognize the importance of teamwork, but indicate that communication across functions could be improved. You might have heard of the silo concept, right? We're not always talking well in our silos, and we're not talking across our silos very well. Communication. Thirdly, as Delta ModTech continues to grow, certain ways of working and processes, best practices, my brother hates that word, they may need to be re-examined. So are you seeing the flow here? We've got this theoretical culture of servanthood and holding that as a value. It's the unchangeable. We hope it is. And clearly the survey for us showed it is unchangeable. It's holding steady. But there are practices that need to be tweaked. So the recommendation from the company we worked with was we recommend exploring new communication practices, examining where the current organizational structure may need adjusting, reinforcing the shared purpose of teams, and clarifying decision processes. As you explore these topics, some functions may need special attention. So again, I'm not trying to bore you with our story, just telling you this is spring. So everything we're living right now with you. So I did this little exercise. I'm not big on terminology. And so I didn't pull out the big C word, the big culture word with our sales group. I just said, what is the Delta way? I mean, some of you that have been here 20 years, you think you know that there is a Delta way. What is it? So we asked that question. What are our core values? What is that? And I went through with the sales group and I had all of them in a room with me. And we fortunately have these really cool writing boards. And I started writing on the board. That's what I got. Tons of stuff. They had lots to say about what they thought the core vision was, the core value, the core culture. Relationships, emphasis on relationships, emphasis on serving the customer. Integration, problem solving, teamwork, total solution, honesty, integrity, timeliness, technical excellence, trust. Interesting that none of this had to do with the technology. Very little. You can say technical excellence. Most of it's the soft skills. That's the value added to the customer. So then I dialed it down and I said, okay, so if those are our overall core values, what are your team's values? As a sales team, what do you value? And again, they gave me quite a few answers. And then I asked them about team. You know, everybody, team is such a buzzword. It's one of those that, yeah, I'm part of the team building. Okay, let's be real. In a team environment, there are some things to do with that. There are some things that are very easy to do, and there are some things that are very hard to do. If we're honest with ourselves, it's a lot easier to lone wolf some things. I can get it done faster and get it done my way. And so we broke it down and said, guys, let's be honest. What part of this do you like doing together, and what part is easier to do alone? We got their answers. And all of this heady stuff, all of this culture discussion led us to this place. We knew that we needed to establish new best practices. And so that's what we began to do. Not that you need this definition, but I put this here because I had been working on this presentation on and off for a couple of weeks, and we have these stand-up desks, and my brother kept walking by. What is with this best practice stuff? What? Oh. And clearly our family needs to work on its culture. But I finally pulled up this definition. I said, Evan, don't get stuck on a buzzword. What we're really talking about is the things that we all prescribe as being correct or most effective. Now let's come to terms and agree on that. And that's not me telling the sales team what I think is correct. And it's not you telling the sales team what you think is correct. It's them. They're living it. They're working it. Your teams need to be part of creating some of these best practices. You as a coach set the culture, you set the vision, but you allow your teams to come along and start creating best practices which add value to the culture. For our sales team, they looked at 3 key things that they do every day. Or I'm sorry, not 3, there's 6 of them up there. And we started dialing down in all of these areas and you're going from sky high in the clouds, a culture, into the weeds. And you really do have to get into the weeds to understand what those best practices are and to begin to define them. Todd, I put this up just for you because I haven't been through this exercise with EEs, but I have to tell you that Todd sent me a few notes before the event here. And I thought it was interesting to hear that your perspective on what Delta's culture was just a little different than the sales perspective. So I put it up here. He said servanthood. Great, he nailed that one. And he said providing our customers engineered solutions. Makes sense from an EE, right? That's what he thinks the core value is. I feel like I'm missing a slide here. Maybe not. We're going to go into our next breakout, but this is a breakout with yourself. This is self-reflection. You guys are all busy. I heard it from Josh back there in Annandale. You got a lot going on. Taking the time to think and assess and create culture takes time. Takes time you don't have. But we're going to put a couple questions up there and we're going to just start with yourself. So this is not about robotics. These questions are not about robotics. We're going to do a little translation. Wherever you are in your job, you're answering these questions as an employee or a manager or a corporate owner of a company. Go ahead and take about 5 minutes and ask yourself and jot down some notes. I think you guys are going to find that this will translate over to your teams really well. I should have planned on a little background music. This is somewhat uncomfortable. Hey, come on, you want the music?
I had it going a little bit.
Yeah, there's music playing earlier.
Todd queued up if you want. We got a bunch of things to do. Classics. Classics.
Oh, no.
Is that you, Todd?
Yep.
I was thinking Mozart, but that'll work. Brain fuel or bang fuel. Play it up, Todd. Is that for me?
Control.
Oh my goodness.
Can't see your question.
Now you can't see the question?
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to your questions here. There you go. Can you pull that up?
I had that on about 7:10 this morning.
Some of his bookmarks.
Please, I'm sorry. Alex living the 80s with this haircut.
I'm telling
Few
you.
cards on every one of our Google front pages, Chief Delphi, the 80s.
I think we need a contest, Europe,
I think so.
robot hair.
Yep, let's see where it goes. Hey, unfair. You can still help them out. Not really, I mean, it
Do it
gets,
in front.
yeah, I could have to go with
Take it
Wendy.
where you got it. I didn't define where the hair needed to be.
I could go with some kind of handlebar.
Okay, we might wanna. Neck up. Yeah.
I can grow a crown, it's
The crown,
bozo.
the long crown of these.
Okay, how are you guys doing? There's a few people writing yet. Need a few minutes? You're good? Okay, that's good. Would anybody like to process verbally? Floor is all yours. Volunteers?
I'll volunteer. I'm never afraid to speak up.
Sure, Jeremy.
So, I have a kind of a weird answer for these because I actually just started a new job. Literally this week on Tuesday. So this is gonna be a bit of a news to some people who know me. For those that don't know me, you're gonna go, okay, whatever. But for those that have known me for the last 2 years, I've been a teacher at Watertown High School. Chemistry and general science, I've done that for the last 8 years. This is my 9th year. I recently left education, and I'm no longer a teacher at Watertown. I'm actually now employed at Beckman Coulter Diagnostics, Chaska. I'm now in industry. Yay. So I kind of answered this question from my perspective of teaching, because I haven't been at Beckman Coulter long enough to know what the answers are to these questions yet. So I'm going to answer this from a teaching perspective. I got excited every day to go to school because I love seeing smiling kids' faces, interacting with them. I like to see their passion for learning and like that light bulb go off when they're like, I get it, right? Like I understand something. That was like the best part, was to just see them like liking science and learning things, and understanding like how to problem solve. Do I feel fun process and review it? Like I used to feel, again, I'm going to use used to, so I didn't feel that way anymore, which is why I left. But I used to feel part of that learning process a lot. I definitely felt like I was a facilitator and that I helped students learn. But in the last few years, it felt like I had become more of a hindrance than anything. And part of education, for those that are in education, and this is obviously everyone's perspective, but for me, I felt that it was starting to become, with technology and social media and just everything, and COVID didn't help. I felt like as a teacher, I felt more of a hindrance than anything. Students didn't really want to be in school. They didn't want to learn. And obviously that's not the case for all of them, but there were days where I just felt like it wasn't, if I just not showed up, that would have been the best day for them. Like, yay, we don't have to do science today, So I didn't enjoy being there as much anymore as I used to when I started, but I did at the beginning for the first probably 5 to 7 years. The last 2 or 3, not as much. And was I being challenged enough? No. And that was a big part of it, is I was not being challenged, not in the ways that I wanted to be. The challenges I had to do in teaching were more about how to deal with parents and how to figure out what to do with kids who just didn't care and didn't want to do anything. And I'm very much driven to grow and learn and get better at my craft, which I felt like I had been doing for a long time, but no matter how much work I put in to get better, it didn't really matter. Like it didn't make kids like want to step up and above and beyond. It just kind of felt like I put in all this work and it just didn't really have much of an impact. And I felt like I wanted to be in a place where all of this energy and time and effort I put in actually got me something. And teaching there very much is a ceiling that you hit, at least at my school. There's no up I can go. It's not like if I become the best teacher in the world, I get to step up the ladder and, you teach the same thing every year. Maybe you get lucky, you can teach an elective or something, but there really is not a whole lot of upward. So for me, I did feel challenged by change. So it might not be exactly the way that everyone obviously answered this question, but that's the way that I think of it, is because I recently have changed careers. And I'm hoping in my new career, I will be challenged enough that I feel like I can grow and move upwards, and I'm excited to be there. So there you go.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I appreciate Jeremy's perspective because I did the opposite direction. I actually, prior to education, worked for corporate America for several years, worked for a small mom and pop shop for several years, owned several of my own businesses. And the business prior to this job that I have today was the most fulfilling life I've ever had. So owning a business, getting up at 4 a.m, showing up to your place at maybe 5 and not going home until 11 or 12 at night, that was the best time of my life. The most fulfilling, the most challenging, the most exciting. There wasn't a single minute during that life that wasn't exciting, that I didn't feel validated by. But what was missing was the actual time to live my life. So I went to education under this guise that I will be able to work a normal hour job, have my weekends free, and enjoy the hell out of June, July, and August.
Yeah.
And then you joined robotics?
And then I took my first year teaching and became so frustrated with the archaic design of education. Became so frustrated with the limitations of being able to be empowered to make the changes necessary. Became so frustrated with the lack of funding, resources, utilities, space to do the job you need to do. And so then I took on more, thinking I could change it. And really what I was doing, and these series of questions has helped me to reflect upon that. Really what I was doing is and I was talking to you earlier, I've taken on the role of robotics in a program that was nearly dying in a school that has nothing to support it. I've taken on the role of union president because I'm going to fix that problem with teacher engagement. I've taken on the role of trying to pass an $86 million referendum to be able to provide what students need, thinking those are the solutions, and to bring back that little bit of excitement. But it's really just substituting in places that are missing. So I hear exactly what you're saying, because the biggest challenge I have doing the job I'm doing today is I feel underutilized with the things that I can really do, and engaging with students that don't even know yet why that's important.
Wow, that's awesome. So I was actually gonna ask for a volunteer in education. That was a great exposition. Anybody else?
I'm Sam. So I recently left my job as a full-time sped para in the Roseville School District, which was an awesome career. I worked with some amazing kids. But much like the prior two stories here, I got very frustrated. I got burnt out by having to deal with COVID the past few years. It was something where I didn't feel like I was helping kids in the way that I could. And so I went out to find and build a skill set where I could come back eventually to a high school setting, a middle school setting, and teach. I started up in like a welding and machining program at some local community college. And that's kind of the path I'd like to take, because I think the challenging part of being in education is I love that. I love working with these kids that are, they need, such high levels of help, and like you're the one that can provide it and help them through it all. And I think that's really important work. And so trying to go out and finding a way to come back and rebuild and help, with your vision, helping all these kids and being able to really make an impact. That's something I'd like to do. Being able to create a robotics culture at a school that's welcoming and that's the thing that I loved about it when I went through it as a kid in high school. And you make all your friends there, you meet people. We had kids from the football team, from the band group, from all walks of high school, and you don't see that in a lot of programs. And I think it's a huge challenge, is mixing these people that come from very different mentalities, different walks of life, and mixing them into the robotics club or to like a big company.
Thank you.
So a lot of teachers in the room. I like Todd back here, am not in the school district. I worked 20 years in the industry as a technician working on automated equipment and robotics. When that company closed down about 2 years ago, mostly went to China. One of those kind of just how big companies do, have 1,000 employees in St. Cloud. I went to a small automation group in St. Cloud of 10 people. we're trying to really grow that business and make it more efficient, profitable. It was always losing money, but as part of a bigger company, it was a small subset of the company to supply their customers an automation solution. This year, we finally became profitable as a group. And I've been really a part of that core. Let's develop the standards and processes and stuff. So I feel very rewarded going to work every day, doing all the electrical engineering and saying, this is how we're going to do it. These are the cables we're always going to use. This is the software we're always going to use. Just so when we get a new machine, we can apply these modules almost and say, this proven work, we can apply it to nearly everything. And part of the reason I became part of robotics, and I get that reward teaching a student, like, oh, they get this aha moment, so I'm not a teacher, but I really, that's what draws me in, that aha moment with the students.
Anybody else from education want to speak? What's your name?
Yeah, I'm a teacher. I'm Mark. And I get excited to come to work every day. I love my job. But caveat is that I work in a small private school and we have resources. And we have families that are motivated. And so I'm in a really nice situation. And I get to teach physics, which is the coolest thing, ever. And I get to open up these kids. I get to open up these kids' minds to this world that they're completely unfamiliar with. And I get to help them do things with their hands and discover things for themselves. And I get to help them understand how we learn about the world, and how scientists figure out the kind of things that they figure out. And do the light bulb moment that many of you referred to. And I get to keep learning cool stuff too. And I'm challenged because there's always a better way to do it than the way I'm doing it. And I'm always thinking about that. I'm also challenged by the fact that I love it so much that I do it all the time. And then I'm the robotics coach. So I tell people as many of you, I'm a full-time robotics coach and I teach on the side. And so the other challenge is work-life balance, of which I have none. And my biggest goal this year is to try to restore some work-life balance and actually value the relationships in my life and not just my job, which I love.
I don't know if that stops with education.
That work-life balance is something I wrote down too. I was like, that's pretty key to balance it all.
I want to just give an opposite perspective. I worked in industry for 20 plus years and I went to teaching. So I left industry because I got very frustrated with all of the bureaucracy and the politics and the backstabbing. I was a very big company, Medtronic. And it was very overwhelming. I didn't feel challenged. I didn't feel engaged. I felt like I was working with a bunch of adults who should know better and know how to play together, but they didn't. And my work-life balance was not good. A lot of travel. It was very difficult. So I went to teaching. So I have like a completely different story, right? And I love the same thing everybody loves. I love going every day, seeing kids grow, seeing kids learn, seeing them engage. And I'm also very lucky because maybe I'm in electives. I teach STEM. I think our school funds STEM very well. They've been very generous. So it's very exciting to be able to teach kids all of these new technologies. Are there things that are frustrating? Yes, of course there are. There's levels of bureaucracy and process and stuff that people aren't content with everywhere. But I love what you said, because I am challenged every day to find new ways to do things and find new approaches and to reach new students. And is it overwhelming? Yes. Am I challenged to try to balance everything? Yes. So not all the challenge is good. But at the end of the day, I love my switch from industry into teaching.
How many of you are here? I probably don't have time for everybody straight. How many of you are here feeling the weight of teaching?
I'm not a teacher, but.
Great, yeah.
In transition, I'm actually still grading and doing things right now with my son. Yep, I still have it, but I'm excited to get done with that.
I'm gonna go on a little bit. Need to offer a solution so quickly, but as I'm hearing you speak, thinking to myself, if you are in a school district where you don't necessarily feel the support and you don't have the kids coming in the way you want to, and you're having a hard time pulling them in because they're not engaged. Let's recruit some industry partners. I mean, some of these industry stories were incredible. And maybe that's the fire for you teachers that are under the gun and not feeling the support system. Boy, industry, to your point, can really help fuel that. So. Thank you for all of your discussion. So you're not done discussing this time. This next time. I'd like you to pick a partner. Just it works best 2 and 2. And we're going to ask a couple of different sets of questions. So the first set of questions is, think with your coach or mentor hat. Am I excited to be at robotics? What does our culture, and if I'm not, what does our culture need to look like in order for me to be excited about being there? And here's a couple sub questions. You don't have to answer them all, but do I feel part of this process? Do I enjoy being there? Do I feel challenged? So the same questions you ask from a professional level, now you were asking it specific to the robotics. So go. Pick a partner.
Sure. All right.
Oh, I think it should be somebody you don't know, right?
That's what I was about.
I didn't know Nick.
Hello.
And he's our, industry.
Or, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. That's what I mean, obviously, there's other people on there was already you know, culture, one thing that I'd say the first year was very strong. And the second year, COVID hit. Last year, living there, I studied I think a lot of teachers. So last year, typically, I really Way up there. And it's pretty hard to go to. Yeah, this kind of size. Interesting. I wish I could. It was fun. We're bad. But that was something that I really do start doing. So. They weren't as available. So I'm hoping that we're going to hear across the. Yeah. It's a bit different. They're building a robot also 20 feet away. Really just kind of. They competed at somewhere. Let me take this out. All these kids they solve well. Just let's just say this out and solve so we can get that figured out.
Okay, guys, let's rope it back in here. So I know you're having a great time discussing. There's another question for discussion. So I'm going to transition you, and maybe some of you have already naturally done this, but you're no longer wearing your coach or mentor hat. Now the question is, it's really rocket science. I bet you can guess it. What does our culture need to look like for every student to be a part of the team? I'm going to go through and ask these same questions. And I should have really put here, do they feel part of the process? What best practices could we put in place that would help them be a part of the culture? So go back to your discussions. And have you already answered this question? Did some of you get to this? Okay. Sometimes it's hard to take off your coach hat and you don't, you migrate over to the student side of it. So put this in, last question on my end here. Jot down some ideas because I'm going to be asking for your feedback on this. We want to generate some ideas.
What are the different vibe chats? We always say whatever it is. Still get chat. Here are the different style chats. What are the benefits of the chat? What are the benefits of that? Yeah, I asked you questions. There's also they're going to say, yeah, but I just. Yes. Yeah, so we're trying to not make I've never had it. But I've always been really small. $7. I'm trying to help. I didn't know. Yeah. And that's for having like,
Okay, guys, I'm so sorry. We have to cut it short. I have to tell you that when Todd put me on the schedule for an hour and a half, I said, Todd, I can't do this. I can talk for 15 minutes. That's all I got. We're an hour and a half in. So we are running late, and I know that there are some really great speakers coming up who are also going to address mentoring and culture. So I don't want to beat it to death. I would love to hear every one of your suggestions, because this is the fun part. This is where the rubber meets the road. Did anybody have a stellar thought they want to share? Just one. Nobody. Okay.
Part of everything, like beyond just practice and the learning, that you build in time for fun, because that really is what helps the kids connect and enjoy being there.
Yeah.
You should implement a team game night every week. One night you guys play games together. It could be video games, could whatever, like that was huge. Last year with COVID, obviously we couldn't really get together. Every Saturday night we play video games. We play Among Us. Laugh. Super easy to get into. You can play on your phone. So people just like sit on the couch if you don't have a computer. We played Among Us. We played other games that like required computer stuff too. We play games together. And some turn out you get, a bunch of kids, others, maybe only 5, but like the more you just do outside of practice as just like straight fun, is I think really important. Because otherwise you just get into this just grind, right? We're just like day in, day out, just constant like work. And then you kind of just like forget why they wanted to do robotics in the first place. It's because they just wanted to have fun and they thought it was cool. And then they get into it like, man, this kind of sucks. They're just like working all the time and it's just stressful. And it's like, you need to just remind them, like, you just need to have fun time. Obviously now with things lifting a bit more, I'm hoping that we can do it. Like my plan was do team dinners, like maybe go to like one of those breakout rooms or escape rooms. Do like a team like escape room thing. Go to a place, play laser tag together, like just all kinds of stuff. Now granted, yeah, it costs money and a lot of times if you have some amount of team funds, you can put some in there, maybe ask for kids to pay for half of it, or if you have enough funding, you can just, as a team, you just pay for everybody or whatever. But I think things like that can be really, really powerful. Just that kids start to like meet each other and learn who each other are more than just simply like, you're the electrical people and whatever, right? Like, yeah, that's huge. You should do that if you're not doing that.
Jeremy, Corey called attention to his t-shirt and what FRC Robotics used to be.
Yeah.
And I think that has defined culture for many of us. We've got 6 weeks to get a job done. We don't have time to do anything other than that. Last year allowed our team to actually have that time.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have to build a robot.
Yeah.
We actually got to discover who we were. We incorporated things like engineering challenges. Here is a bunch of parts. Do something with it. You have to all sell it to us in the end. And that actually was some of the best times that we've had on this team. And very well could be the reason why this year we've got more kids coming to the team.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think instead of all business to be competitive, I hear your point.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it fun to think outside of the box and just to, when times are tough to like find the nuggets, right? And those nuggets those are great. Go ahead.
So Jeremy's point is a good one. I've spent a lot of time working with teams on helping them define their values. And you'll be surprised how many teams that we've worked with are really uncomfortable with defining fun as a core value for their team. And we really try and get over that, really try and say, why isn't that, when we talk about this with team members, like, why are you doing robotics at the beginning of these workshops that we run? Almost every student says, I'm doing this because I'm having fun. Yeah. I get to work with my friends. I get to do all this fun stuff. But yet when it comes to them defining that as a fundamental value that defines their team, they're really reluctant to do it, as if it were not important enough, I guess. So doing things like Jeremy's suggesting, is a way to kind of really instill in the team that is a fundamental value that's important to them. It'll help them be more successful.
We were one of those teams that worked with the OT, and fun is one of our core values. So we worked and got our core values all together. And then the kids had to go back and I said, okay, you got to define what this means. And I went to read what they came up with. Fun glues our team together year after year. Talon works hard to bring fun to everything we do. We show every student the excitement of robotics. Fun helps us stick together, persevere through thick and thin, allowing us to reach our goals. So the kids came up with that after first fighting us when we wanted to put fun on there.
Yeah, that's right. It was really interesting discussion. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, my young kids, when they went to robotics and they heard you like the announcer, World Wrestler Foundation announcing at the U of M, they thought that was pretty fun. So yeah, kudos to you guys who have really put that core value first or in the front. I'm going to turn it over to Todd. Thank you guys very much.